Today we are going to be talking about 3D, solving quadratic equations by taking the square root. Mine is going to begin on page 29. So we have a few notes to take first. So to solve equations by taking the square root, we want to remember that this method only works when there's no x term. The form of this equation is ax squared plus c equals 0. And it can be solved by using the square root property that states if x squared is equal to n, then x is equal to plus or minus the square root of n. There are 3 steps in solving. Step 1 is to isolate the x squared term. Step 2 is to take the square root of both sides. And step 3 is to make sure that you simplify the radical by placing a plus and minus sign to indicate both answers. We're going to take a look at 3 examples today, and we will do more in class later on. Okay, so example 1, x squared minus 64 is equal to 0. So we want to isolate the x squared by adding 64 to both sides. So that means that we are solving x squared equal to 64. And we want to take the square root of both sides. And remember, when we take the square root, we are looking for the plus minus answer. And so x is equal to plus minus the square root of 64 is 8. And we have solved our quadratic equation. Example number 2. 7x squared plus 8 is equal to 15. This one looks different because there is a value in front of the x squared. We're going to isolate the x squared, so we're going to subtract 8. That leaves us with a 7x squared is equal to 7. And then we want to actually do another step here by dividing by 7. And so x squared is equal to 1. We will take the square root of both sides. Remember that we need a plus minus. And so x is equal to the plus minus of 1, positive negative 1. And our last example that we will take a look at before you do practice problems in class will be 4 minus 3x squared equals a negative 77. So we are going to, again, since this is a positive 4, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So we have a negative 3x squared is equal to negative 81. And we want to get rid of that negative 3, so we're going to divide by negative. And remember, when you divide a negative by a negative, it actually turns into a positive. So we were a little nervous there with that negative sign. And we are going to simplify negative 81 divided by a negative 3. And we are left with a positive 27. And so we take the square root of both sides. And since 27 is not a perfect square, we can say that x is equal to plus minus the square root of 27, or we can actually simplify that by knowing that this is actually 9 times 3, and the square root of 9 is 3, so we could say that x is equal to plus minus 3 square root of 3 as our final solution. Again, we will do some extra practice in class.